Hello there, I'm Luciano Oliveira. I am a Brazilian attorney, also licensed in California and Texas. And today we're going to be talking about what are the risks of filing a lawsuit in Brazil. So the first risk is like how uncertain the outcome is going to be, and different from the United States. For instance, in Brazil it's more difficult for parties and judges to know what the outcome is going to be. Because of our civil law, we don't operate on the same basis as it is the case in the United States. Judges have more discretion on how to decide a case, and therefore the outcome is not going to be as easily forecasted as it is in the United States. A second risk or problem is going to be your time and resources that you're going to need to commit. A lawsuit in a different country is different than filing a lawsuit in your own country. So you're going to be committing to time, even if you're paying good attorneys. The good attorneys are still going to need input from you. They're going to need evidence. They're going to need documents. They're going to need to discuss a strategy. So there is a lot of commitment from your side in terms of money and time. In financial terms, the worst case scenario is when you actually lose a case, because as we've been discussing in other videos, there is the so-called losing parties attorney fees. In Portuguese, which we call it honorários de sucumbência, and it means that the losing party may have to pay up to 20% in attorney fees to the other side. Very interesting to note that those fees, they are going to go to the actual attorneys, so they are not going to go to the client themselves. But still, if you are losing the case, it means you may need to pay up to 20% of the cause value, and again, you will need to pay that to the other side's attorneys. Another risk is like how you're going to enforce a certain judgment. So let's say if there is a contract dispute in Brazil, and if you end up winning that case, you also need to collect the judgment. And what we see very often is that, like when some Brazilian companies, for instance, they are not really doing well, they start to ramp up purchase from abroad, and then instead of paying the suppliers, they are going to start to delay on those payments. It's almost like they are getting a self-funding from buying from abroad, selling in the local market, and not paying the suppliers, right? And unfortunately, by the time you get a win at the court, maybe that debtor is no longer financially viable. So that's a concern we usually analyze even before filing a lawsuit. We want to check in which stage this debtor or company is in this grand scheme of things. Finally, there is a reputational risk, and in addition to the reputational risk, there is also the matter of disclosure, meaning that whenever you are filing a lawsuit in Brazil, whatever you're filing, whatever it's being discussed in the case will potentially become public, and this could bring like reputational risk. If you are suing a client, for instance, other clients are going to see you suing a client. That could be a reputational risk. There is also the matter of disclosing information at the court. So maybe you're going to be disclosing information that is private to your clients or private to your strategy, and you will not be wanting to share those informations with the public. So there are all of those risks out there. Interesting to note that when you file a lawsuit in Brazil, a certain level of the information is going to be accessible to anyone. Pretty much anyone. The person doesn't need to be an attorney. They can basically just go to the state court's website and search and see, for instance, petitions that you are filing and other documents, decisions from the judge, and so on. Now, evidence in particular may be restricted, meaning that a person from the public would not be able to access immediately. However, if, for instance, you have a competitor who hires an attorney and simply you register for that particular cause, even if the attorney has no relation whatsoever to your cause, this attorney would be able to potentially see every single document being filed in that particular case. Meaning, if you are sharing, for instance, purchase orders or invoices or contracts or terms of services, all of that information could be potentially available to a competitor who, through this lawsuit, would be able to understand your strategy for the Brazilian market, right? So pretty a sensitive type of information to be out there. This is something you're gonna need to think about and decide before filing a lawsuit in Brazil. I hope this video was helpful. Follow us for more tips, and don't forget to download the ebook, The 7 Things You Must Know When Handling Disputes in Brazil. See you in our next video.